Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Dune Imperium. A little late to the party for getting us up on the channel. This came out last year, right? Yes, because it was constantly talking in every fucking podcast and video of comparing this to Lost Ruins of Arnak, which of course we're going to do here. So if you can't beat them, join them. This is a game that I don't particularly like, which is weird because I love Lost Ruins of Arnak, and there's a few delineations between the two that I think actually set Lost Ruins higher, way higher, than this one. But I also don't know shit about Dune. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that helps. Right. It doesn't hurt it, I don't think. Like, I'm not sitting there like, well, this game sucks because I don't know anything about Dune. It just becomes kind of, it's a glossed over, this could be a theme about anything, sure, which we already see from Lost Ruins being about, Indiana Jones expedition. Yeah. But it's really weird, and I think the biggest thing on why I don't personally like it is I think the pacing is extremely off. Like, you start off with nothing, and it takes you a little bit to start generating something. Then you generate it pretty well, and then what you're generating is now useless. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that, especially in the deck builder. Like, in a pretty thin deck builder, where you're gonna get a decent-sized deck. It's not too thin, where you're seeing the same thing, but it's also not big where you see nothing. Right. You get a decent-sized deck that I actually enjoy. It's that perfect balance. But it's just like the resources. The resources are just extremely weird, and playing it multiple times, it's kind of like, well, that's the strat. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I'm going to go there because I know I need to go there. I need water, so I'm going to go there. Oh, I can't because I'm fucking last. Yeah. And everyone, of course, goes there. So then, it was better in a 3-player game. Without a doubt, 4 was awful. But it's like, one person is kind of always behind someone else. Mm-hmm. And there's not a whole lot you can do to pick that back up. Even though it is, the final score doesn't show it. 12 to whatever. 12 to 9 or 12 to 7 to 6. It was close up until then.
I've also played this far more than I think everybody here.
Right, which actually I think proves my point, that there's a strat to go for, and there's not enough variation for me to be like, I'm going to try this, and that is equally valid to what you're going to do. Right. I have played both sides of the spectrum of not fighting at all or fighting all the time, and they did okay. Yeah. Like, I wasn't like at 2, like really just, I don't know. I don't know. The pacing for this just doesn't work for me. What do you guys think? Obviously, you've played this a shit ton, and you've played it quite a bit, so you guys most likely like it more than I do.
I mean, I can definitely, see some of those points, too, and I kind of do agree that sometimes, I feel like there is a strategy, and I feel like the strategy is pretty similar throughout. Mm-hmm. Granted, not that I've done that. I'm obviously in last place. I'm always trying to do something different, and it never
last minute points.
Yeah, I never end up getting where I need to go. But I think there's also just some weird inconsistencies with some of the cards. I mean, I know that card was 8 points to purchase,
but that's not hard to get.
Exactly, and then with you constantly, if you're going for a specific strategy. You're going to, draw cards so that you're constantly drawing that card, and then you're constantly just screwing us over, and then, all of a sudden, you get 12 points, and we're stuck at, 6 after, a round, so...
And those same points are exaggerated for me because this game is long. This game is, easily 2 hours, and it's
And when you have more players, it can be even longer.
Oh, God, that 4-player game, I was
4 players, and when everybody's thinking too hard, each round can last 20 minutes sometimes.
Right, because it's there's not too little options, but there's not too many.
Yeah.
But yet all of the options are kind of fucking boring. Yeah. It's just I'll spend this one card and go there and get a spice.
Yeah.
All right, that was my whole turn. It's so blah. Zach, go ahead. Go and go. I don't want to keep shitting on it because I know you like it.
I really like Dune, first of all. I've read 3 of the books, but outside of that, with all the games that I've played, first of all, there is a fault in the game with it needs more action spaces, which I think that's one way that I always defend it. That's one minor flaw with the game. there needs to be more faction cards and more action spaces so it balances out your options. But outside of that, I've seen people go for Fremen strategies and win the game. I've seen people go for Bene Gesserit strategies and win the game. I've seen people go for war strategies and win the game. But it's all about, it's a little bit of luck and it's a lot of buying the cards that you need. I got a Mother Mohayim card, which allowed me to make everyone discard 2 cards, which seems overpowered, but I also was filling my deck. That was one of the first cards that I got, and I was filling my deck with Bene Gesserit cards, so I got that 3 times during the game, which is very difficult because this game's only 10 rounds. Usually you don't draw a card that often. I think on the game that we played, I happened to get Kwisatz Haderach at the very first round, which is very, very, very good. Like, it will help you out. That's one of the best cards in the game.
Yeah.
And I managed to get 8 in order to buy it at the beginning round because I think I did something. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to sacrifice an entire round to do that.
Yeah.
The intrigue cards, especially for the win conditions, can be frustrating. I played games where someone pulls out an intrigue card and I thought I was winning the entire game, and it's like, nope, actually I bought a bunch of Spice Must Flow cards and I win the game.
Yeah.
That's really irritating. I think that could be balanced a little bit better. But outside of...
There's none of that in Lost Ruins. There's no just like, oh, lucky me. All right, 15 points.
Yeah.
And I think like the biggest difference, we played Lost Ruins of Arnak once, is there isn't a sense of conflict. This seems like you're all on the same battlefield and a lot of things are going on together, whereas Arnak just seems like you're doing a bunch of things. And that's the way that they seem different. They're very similar in theory, but I feel like you're oftentimes taking completely separate actions.
I mean, it's a worker placement with Lost Ruins that you go somewhere, most likely someone's not going to be able to go there as well. Standard worker placement. The biggest crux is, and I go back to pacing on this one, it's more about the flow of the overall game, but also the pacing of like, oh, you happen to get 8... whatever the fuck those things are. You happen to get... So you get your 3rd worker before everyone else. And through turn order or bad luck draw, there's too much variables for me to be like, I cannot get 8. So I can't get my 3rd worker. So I am just behind this entire time.
Well, that's something that I like about it is I have won the game with getting the 3rd worker a couple times. I've won the game with getting the High Council a couple times. And you need one of them to win the game.
Right.
But the way that the
High
cards...
Council's easier.
Yeah. The way that the cards reveal themselves, and you kind of start to develop a strategy at the beginning of the game, and you can always see, like that game that I got, the Kwisatz Haderach, I don't need the swordsman or the swordsmaster because I have an extra action every turn. There's other things that will give you a balance out as far as that goes. I've seen people buy only cards that give you combat powers, and they don't even focus on purchasing like towards the end of the game, and they're winning battles over and over and over again. I think Zach won a game against me because he was doing that. But yeah, again, in theory it's similar to Lost Ruins of Arnak, and I really like that game.
Oh, so that's what I was saying is like, so with Lost Ruins is you're only going to have 2 workers.
Yeah.
And it comes down to how you build your deck, and there's tons of ways to get victory points. I think there's a lot more variety in that one.
Yeah.
As well as the cards you put in your deck are points.
Yeah.
But it's also solo. So like how I'm building my deck is gonna only benefit me. Versus this one, it just seems like I don't think there's ever been a Lost Ruins game where someone bought a card and I was like, fuck, there it is.
Yeah.
And that's happened each time I've played this game where it's like, I didn't even get a chance to buy that card. It's the only card in the game. You don't have to trash it. Great.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And even and I'm not saying there's been games that I've disliked before where I've won, but I had a miserable time doing it.
Sure.
I'm not saying this game is unbalanced. I'm just saying the entirety of the 2 hours, it's like, oh yeah, this isn't bad, and then you slowly start to get more and more annoyed. At least I do, of like, okay, I have the shitty hand, but maybe I can make it work. I just need to go to this one spot, and they went there. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess I'll reveal and get 3 things. Get 3 money, currency to buy the cards. Influence probably is what it's called.
Right.
I really do think that card kind of just like created problems in this game for us.
Which one, the discarding 2?
Yes.
That one didn't actually bother me as much. I think it affected you a lot more.
That affected me because I think every time that you would do that, I would have, especially because I had spent a lot in acquiring like Fremen Bond and Bene Gesserit cards that would like balance each other out, and then whenever I would like use them, they'd always be the last cards in my hand.
And it's weird because those cards didn't need to exist. The conflict is all here.
Yes.
Fighting and doing all that, building up your army to try and win that is like, okay, if I lose, you outsmarted me. But then there's also just those weird, because there's not a lot. This isn't a fighting like competitive, but it's like those cards are just slight annoyances where it's like Terraforming Mars is a good example. 95% of that game is non-conflict, but then there's that 5% where it's just a big old fuck you, and it's like, why? Like, this game doesn't need to have any of that.
But I think in even in Terraforming Mars, you have the tension of placing tiles and screwing over people, and that's where it's almost like another 20% piled on there because of how the map plays out. Now, if you're not focusing on the map, then you don't have to worry about that. It's the same with this game. If you're not focusing on the conflict, you can win the game, but you have to play your cards right, and you have to gain the right cards and get respect in certain tracks.
Right, and so I think you and I kind of touch the same thing. Like in Terraforming Mars, where you're placing, that's essentially like the same idea here.
Yeah.
With the conflict, is putting your people and go into certain locations to build up an army to put them out to help fight to potentially win a conflict. I actually don't mind this as much. Once again, pacing, where you can spend an entire turn, do everything right, and be like, I had 15. In any other game, that would be good, but just like, oh, okay, like, and it's like I beat you by 1 point. It's like. And I wasn't annoyed that I lost that way. I was annoyed because at that point I wanted the game to be over.
Yeah.
And it just drew out the game longer.
Yeah.
And another problem I have with, not just this one, but a lot of games, where this game should be an hour and a half, and certain things can draw it out another 30 minutes or 45, and it's like, okay.
Like sometimes you know that you can't, like you're halfway through the game and you know that there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah.
Right.
Win, and then so you're just stuck there.
And it's like, probably there could have been, like there were a few things I might have been able to, like, if we had gone to this one, I might have been able to build, not, the second to last round to build up to, because I knew it was going to be 2 points, they're all the same, to be like, okay, I know I can increase one more here, that'll give me the 8, and then I can potentially build up to try and win that last one. But then, it's just like, man, lucky me, I drew the intrigue card that gives me 2 points at the end. Yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't get that chance. So, I don't know how many of them are in this deck.
There's not very many, and also... It's on a side note. You can luck into them, but
like I did. I drew one. And I was like, "Oh, look at that point!"
Yeah,
it's like, what the fuck is that?
I do think that it kind of fits into the theme, though, and I think the way that it plays and a lot of like these cards kind of just fit into.
Yeah,
and paying spice or water for a victory point it's commiserate with how much those are worth. Because the way that the water is worth the most, then the spice, then the Solari. Everybody was talking about it. A lot of people talking about it. I have like 25 Solari, but I can't do anything. And like you are limited. There's specific actions that you can do. If you have spice, you have a lot more freedom, but you need to be able to go in those spaces. If you have water, you can add a lot of cards to your deck a lot of the time, and that was my main focus a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it's like that's all fine. I just think that that's a shit ton of variables that one thing can just derail your entire turn. And in a game where this is a very tight game. For the most part, we were all close on points, and even the track for the most part. For you to be a turn behind everyone, your game's pretty much over.
Yeah.
Unless you happen to luck into that, and I just think that's a cheap strategy.
Yeah.
Because in Dwellings of Eldervale, I don't know if you guys have played that. They had a deck of, it wasn't like event cards, but it was like bonus cards.
Yeah.
And there was a strategy where you can just draw those. And then the run through, I was just like, oh, you can just get really powerful cards. So I just started top decking.
Yeah.
Like for the quests that I needed to get victory points.
Yeah.
I hate top decking shit. It's like you didn't earn that. You're just searching for the ones that happen to fit your strategy, and then it's like, oh, lucky me, I planned that.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely not the worst game I've ever played, but man, it's just so weird. And I felt the same way the last time we played too. So I'm just curious.
Me of a little bit of Clank with the components and everything. Like the art obviously is completely different, but yeah,
same company.
I can see how it was made by the same. I think it's the same designers too, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know who did Clank.
Be wrong.
It's been I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, it makes sense how they were made by the same group of people.
Yeah, I prefer games like, and Lost Ruins has this, where there's no, I mean, maybe there is for people who've played it, 30 times, but there's no, like, you need to do this first. Mm-hmm. If you don't do this, then you will not have a good time. This one does have that, and you mentioned it earlier, High Council and Swordmaster, unless you happen to get the card that gives you an extra action. But even then, getting your Swordmaster, now you have 4 actions instead of 3.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, you're going to need to get on the High Council, and you're going to need to get your 3rd worker. Which is, the 3rd worker's fine. That's how it is in every worker placement, where you can get more workers. That's just par for the course.
Right.
But I like deck builders to be like, I'm going to build my deck this way and see how it does. And every deck builder is pretty much solo multiplayer.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't affect you, you don't affect me. We just see whose strategy wins. But yeah, too many times have I been burned, and I always go last. And fuck this guy. This guy sucks. I do believe these are unbalanced.
We did give you the option of getting another character.
You did, but that wouldn't have been fair.
I wouldn't.
I said random, and then I was like, oh yeah, this guy. Damn it!
I totally
But
understand.
I actually do think the abilities are unbalanced. If anything is unbalanced about the game, I do think it is these abilities.
You can play as Baron Harkonnen, which is one of the more complicated factions, and you choose... It's something to do with you having...
Oh, is it the gross old guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All the
And by
Harkonnens-
gross, I mean sexy as hell.
all the Harkonnens are gross. But you choose 2 of the factions at the end of the game, and if something happens, you instantly get 2 points in those factions. So you can, like, game it so that at the very end of the game, 2 of your factions move up, but also people know who, if you're playing that faction, that's a potential possibility. So.
Yeah, I was wondering about these tokens.
Yeah.
In the games that I have played, I've only had him, but I've always felt like I was the most useless. It's like, okay, I don't really have a starting ability.
Yeah.
And his regular ability would be better if it's like, I'm going to play my Signet Ring, and that lets me allow me to put it in and pull into the battle. It doesn't, as far as I know. So it's like, oh yeah, I can build up an army. Oh, you guys took all the spots that I can go to put them in in the war, so okay, I don't have an ability.
Right.
So that might be my biggest gripe, honestly, is the fact that I've just been sniped out of positions that in any other worker placement, it's like, damn, I wanted to go there. Okay, well, I'll do this. There's an alternative. Mm-hmm. There's never an alternative here because it relies on the luck of the draw.
Right.
And it's like...
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, sometimes you'll draw a hand and you really only have the possibility of going to, like, 2 separate colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, you're stuck, like, with these. Maybe you want a combat, but then, like, the other players have placed here, like, or the 2...
Or you only have 1 water and the only blue spot you can go to, and you need 2, and it's just like, all right. And if it's thematic, that's fine. My argument has always been theme doesn't make good game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh man, it's super thematic that you do this. It's like, cool. It fucking sucks. I don't play board games to be like, well, that's like real life. It's like, I'll just immerse myself in shitty real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so weird because I've only talked negatively about it. It's a solid, I mean, it's a deck builder. I would, like you said, wish there were more combinations of cards, because I had one card that was like, it's right here. If you have another Bennett Gesserit card in play, then I go up on a track. Mm-hmm. But it's like, do they say Bennett Gesserit on it? Or is it like
there's a faction listing
those little, like,
underneath.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I just didn't get those, so... Oh yeah, there they are. They're perfect.
I have like 5 in my deck.
Like,
because I bought them all.
No, they're all at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
They're all at the bottom of the deck. There's not a whole lot of ways to cycle these either. So it's like once you kind of get a shitty, like it's like, oh, okay, I have to reveal.
Yeah.
Then I guess I'll buy those.
Right.
I do like the 2 card abilities. Actually, I like the multi-card use of it. Even though it can be shitty, I do like that you can... No, I don't. I don't like that the cards are where you go.
Yeah. I
really don't like that. If it was just go anywhere and then you had the 2 card abilities, I think that would have worked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I almost think...
Because you have to be able to place a person to be able to play... Yeah, because like, I think I asked that the first time we played. I was like, hey, I really want to just get a person, but do I have to have an available meeple? And it's like, yes. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So... I don't like how those are tied. But other than that, I do like the 2 card abilities where you can hold on for like, I'm not doing anything on my turn, but then it also is a double-edged sword because it's like, oh, I really want the spice in the 1 point, but I need to use this to send a person out to some shithole spot I don't want to go to.
I think it's interesting in strategy because like that Chome Dictatorship card that I had gives you 1 in every faction, but you can't use it for anything. So
Right.
It's a floater in your deck that is wasting space. I got it earlier and I was like,
Yeah.
I can't really use this. I don't need the Solari for it.
Yeah.
Especially later in the game, 3 Solari means nothing.
Yeah, same with the Spice Must Flow cards.
Yeah.
You buy them, it's a point,
Yeah.
which is good. There's usually cards like that in every deck builder.
Right.
The ones where they're just points at the end.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like those are the cards. Now, I don't even think the Spice Must. Everyone knows those are available. Those are the cards that you know as a player who's I know that's in the deck. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for that.
Right.
And you just raced whoever gets the higher end cards typically seems like they're gonna win. Like there's not that many in here. I think no, there might just be the 2. Yeah, there's that one, and then the one I got.
Yeah.
That was just a point.
Yeah.
I think. No, maybe it was just Spice Must Flow. So, Karini kind of mentioned it earlier, where it's like, oh man, there's certain cards that are just like, that seems way more overpowered than what everything else is. What you paid for. That was fine. You're multiple
what you paid
discards
for and what it does, and
Right.
like compared to some of these other things, and even some other cards that cost like the same or similar.
I think like the wide strategy and going into this game, and it's like a lot of like any game like this, is keeping your options as wide open as they possibly can be. Planning like ahead, if somebody takes that one spot that I wanted, like you took that spice spot, you filled it in, and I was planning on going there. It's 8 spice. It's a massive amount of spice.
Yeah, it was huge.
But you took it, and I was like, that's not a big deal. I have other options.
Yeah.
Keeping at least some modicum of money to buy a new card is important. I saw a lot of people in the last game that we played, they would end their turn prematurely just so that they knew that they had an option as far as that goes, even if sometimes there wasn't even a card available. But understandably, there's like an 8 cost card is going to be extremely good.
Right.
This card, like I had mentioned, gives you better benefit than the Spice Must Flow. The Spice Must Flow is really just a backup card if you have another card, because anytime
Right.
at the end of the game, you really don't want to buy that card because it's going to fill in your deck.
Exactly, yeah.
Be a waste.
Do you think that the game allows you to have so many options? In Lost Ruins, and I mentioned that we were going to compare the two because that's all everyone else did.
Yeah.
Lost Ruins, you can do that. Like, you have your hand of cards that either have dual purpose as well in terms of getting resources that you need to go explore or move up on the research track.
Right.
But you're also not limited. You have 2 workers. Here you can get up to 3. But you get to choose where they go. Granted, the cards will tell you, okay, you need a boot or you have an airplane on it.
And you still get to take more actions on top of that, too. You can move up in the treasure track. I forget what it's called.
Research track.
Yeah.
You also have like assistants that you can help. There's a lot of ways to recall. There's very few in this game that I actually happen to get an influence card that let me recall a worker.
Yeah.
Or move them around. I think Karini had a card that let her go to a spot that someone else had, but those are few and far between in this one, where Lost Ruins seems to have a little bit more freedom to where it can be like, man, I was going to go there. She, prevented everyone. But that's okay, because I can choose to go here instead of being like, I'm going last. Like, I knew, like, whenever I was going last that I was fucked.
Yeah.
Every time. And that's very rarely happened in a game where it's like turn order super matters. I had one cool turn where I was like, I'm going to go up on this track because I'm going to be first player next turn. But then it's like, I'm last. All right, well, I'll just see what happens.
And I will agree with you in a 4-player game. I do get that. I do get to points where I'm just like, well, I don't really have many options because... But in this 3-player game, we played the 3-player game 3 times or so. For me, there's almost always any option.
Yeah.
I found
I almost feel like 2 would be way better.
I think probably. I also...
Because it's still tight enough that someone can block you, but not so tight that it's like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I have the perfect hand of cards. I can go wherever I need to get this awesome combo. And you both just happen to go... Not in this run-through, but hypothetically, you both just happen to go there, so now this awesome hand is useless.
Right. And in the 2-player variant, there is a 3rd player that you randomly have to put on places.
That's annoying.
So, but it's balancing out, so if one player is going for one thing and the other player is going for another thing, it's going to randomly go to those spaces.
Kind of throw a wrench in things.
But yeah, I see this in Lost Ruins as very comparable. I've played Lost Ruins a lot less, so I'm fuzzy on it. I played Lost Ruins and I did feel bogged down a little bit as far as my choices went.
Like there were too many choices?
There was like too little. Just because once it got towards the end of the game, there was only a certain set of options that you could take in order to be successful, I felt like.
Interesting.
And I felt like
I don't agree with that.
I felt like Karini and I both knew what they were,
Mm-hmm.
because we needed certain things to go up on the research track,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed to do certain actions in order to get those rewards. And the situation that we had, we were kind of limited as far as we went. We played a game and we were off by 1 point. So
Yeah.
it was tight like this game, but I can see that game being very far apart too. Whereas this game is so tense, even from the beginning of the game, I'm just like, let's min-max this as much as possible. We need to like make the best actions at the beginning of the game, because the beginning of the game does matter a lot. If you get expensive cards into your deck at the beginning of the game, you know you're going to draw those 2 to 3 times, and they're going to be powerful.
Right.
I was gonna, because you just touched on it, and I just feel like if you do min-max in this, like, you have an advantage. And I feel like you spent a lot of resources and a lot of time, like, going basically back and forth between these, especially those last few turns, to kind of, like, give you the upper hand. I mean, I don't want to say that that's, like, bad, because
It's not bad.
I don't think I dislike it quite as you, and I do like this game, and I do like playing it.
I mean, yes, there were cards
yeah.
I could have been like, oh yeah, I know you're going for that strategy, I'll draft those. But I hate drafting. I despise it. I should be able to do a strategy in any competitive game that is equal to, like, and it's like, okay, here's your strategy, here's mine, which one's better? Like, who did it better? Versus, well, I guess I'll play completely different just so you... I do not play that way. And it's like, well, I know he's going to go to the spot that lets him draw 3. That's all he's done this whole game.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go there. I don't want to draw 3. I want to do this, but if I don't want... I don't like that. If I don't gain a benefit from it that I see as part of my strategy, then I choose not to do it.
Yeah.
It's like... I think I even mentioned as a joke on the run-through. I was like, oh man, I need to take that because, you know, Zach's going to use it again. It's like, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah. And the only time I have done that in this game, but only... I think it was a game where I was playing with Zach, and it was really tense.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how he was going to shoot for the win.
Yeah.
So I had to do that in order to stay afloat.
Yeah.
But that's the only game I've ever played out of 10 games that I've played where that was a necessary thing.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
And it's weird because you've talked about how tight this game is, and it is pretty, like, it's a pretty tight-knit game. And what's funny is you mentioned Lost Ruins, where it's like those games can have a runaway victory. Granted, you don't know till the end because it's like you count it all up. And it's like, I had 80. What the fuck? I had 3. It's like, okay, well, then you just suck again. I would almost rather have that because it's a number and you're just like, whatever. Versus having a tight track and all of a sudden someone gets 4 points.
Right.
It's like that's more insulting to me than, oh, I got 70. Oh, fuck, I got 50. And then you just move on. Everyone's already packing up. Yeah. The number means nothing.
Yeah.
Especially when you think you've been doing really well.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you just kind of get shot down.
Another difference is Lost Ruins is a lot shorter. So here it just draws out, if you're doing poorly, that pain of like, God, like this is like the food chain magnet of a deck builder. Yeah. Where it's like you just have to fucking suffer through here. Or it's like, oh wait, maybe I can get it. And then someone's like, well, I can't win, so I'm going to make sure you don't win. So I'm going to get 15 while you're at 14, and I'll get 2 points just to tie!
Yeah.
Not even, I was like, I might win this, or at least stop Zach from winning immediately.
That's pretty hilarious.
And it just so happens that you're a couple. Weird that you chose to do that. Like, if Zach was going to win, you'd be like, oh, I'll let him.
No, I actually hate when Zach wins.
It's okay. This is the first game Zach's won that I've played with. Okay. I'll let him have it. It's his favorite game.
Yeah,
it's a 10 out of 10. Why. He's gonna say it. If it's anything less than he hates it. So yeah, Crux. It's not a bad. If someone were to be like, no, I actually don't think I would play it again because of how long it is. Mm-hmm. If it was like an hour and a half, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. There's a few gripes, but the length kind of like exaggerates the problems that I have. Where it's like, well, my deck's pretty good, but there's like, I've mentioned 5 different things I can just throw a wrench in it. And it's like, that's a little bit too much for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I can think of. You guys got anything else?
Nope.
All right, cool. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll start because I'm probably going to be the lowest. I don't hate it. I'll give it a 5. I think it's an average game.
Reverse Robinson Crusoe.
It's reverse Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah, it's like initially I can see people thinking like I'm gonna give it like a 4 or 3. It's like I can see that it's like it's a tight game. It's just like I don't want to play it again. But I'll give it an average. So 5 out of 10 for me.
Cool.
I would say like a 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Slightly above average.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Like I like playing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not normally like the first one I'll go for, but if somebody wants to play it and suggests it, I'll definitely.
It's
always
hard
play
to
it.
introduce people to this just because of the theme. Like we know limited people. Who
There's
are into
zero
Dune.
theme here.
Yeah.
And
I
the
mean,
group that we play with, they don't watch Dune. I mean,
Yeah.
I watched the David Lynch film. Like
it's
a
as
long
dry
time
as the
ago.
planet that they're on in the book. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this game needs... If this had a graphical overhaul and, like, looks sexy, that would help it. But this is such a boring-looking game.
It looks very robotic.
It's just very, like, gray. Even the colors are here. Just seem to have, like, a gray hue over it. And, like, the cards don't do it. I don't much like the art. It's fun to be like, hey, that's Josh Brolin. And that's Jason Momoa. That's cool. They're actors I know.
Yes.
But yeah. So anyway, 10 out of 10. I'm assuming.
I give it a 8.
8.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was expecting.
Charlize Theron.
She's
Who?
not in this movie?
Is she not?
No.
Who is this lady? What's
Angelina
she look
Jolie.
like? It's not
That's
Angelina
what
Jolie.
I don't know.
Maybe we'll see in the movie.
Rosario Dawson. I don't know.
That's not who it is.
That's
So no.
Christopher Lee, the guy you were playing as.
For me,
No, it's not.
was
It's
like,
not.
what are you
Well, first of all,
talking
he's
about?
dead, so it's not him. In the 2021 movie, he died like 4 years ago. What were you gonna say?
For me, like I said, I comparing this to Arnak, I would give Arnak probably around an 8 too, from what I experienced with it. I'd have to play it again.
Sure.
This is much more interesting because Indiana Jones, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't really into the Uncharted video games. Like, I don't really want to do this. Like, it's
Yeah.
not my most exciting theme, but the art does look good. It looks better than this.
Yeah.
This, I don't hate the art.
And don't get me wrong, Lost Ruins does have its flaws. It is like, the cards are kind of a little bit too simple in what they do. But that's also getting expansions. I don't know if this particular one. There's like 7 other Dune games out now, so now it's a flush market.
Yeah.
That it's almost. I haven't played any of them, but it's almost like, well, why are we playing this one instead of those 4 others that just released?
And the good thing about those is they're completely different from what I understand. I mean, the OG Dune is couldn't be more of the opposite of this.
Yeah.
It's Scythe was very heavily inspired by it, I know, and we played it a couple times, but this couldn't be any more different from that game. But yeah.
All right, cool. So that's our thoughts on Dune Imperium. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.